When Britain claimed Kenya in the early 1900s, they didn't just rule it, they took it. The most fertile farmland in the country was renamed the White Highlands. And this wasn't just a name, this was law. Africans, especially the Kikuyu, who had lived there for centuries, were forced off their own soil. And entire communities were moved to subpar reserves. And if that wasn't bad enough, Britain instituted taxes on the Africans that they could only pay by working for the settlers. Hut tax, poll tax, labour tax, all of these were forcing people into wage slavery. Movement as well was tightly controlled. Africans needed passes to leave their reserves, and wages, they were set incredibly low so that people were poor and dependent on the work. This wasn't about civilization, it was about creating a permanent class of cheap labour for Britain's plantations and railways. By the 1940s, people had had enough. And political groups like the Kikuyu Central Association started demanding land and rights. And out of that frustration, the Mau Mau rebellion kicked off in 1952, with fighters swearing secret oaths to reclaim their country. And how did Britain respond? With overwhelming violence. Entire villages were wiped out and communities rounded up and put into barbed wire camps. And inside those camps, torture was routine. Beatings, sexual assaults and starvation, and people were hanged after sham trials. The British official count stands at 11,000 Mau Mau people killed, but Kenyan survivors put that number higher, far higher, with a lot of civilians being caught in the crossfire. For decades, Britain denied all of this. In school books, they spoke of loyal Africans and terrorists, and the camps were airbrushed out of history. It wasn't until survivors sued the British government in 2000 that all of this information came out. In 2013, the UK government admitted what had happened and paid compensation. But even then, they called it an isolated incident and not the brutal system that it truly was.